What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy YouTube channel. We're back with our last 5 videos here for the college football previews, diving into kind of like, hey, what is going on with these teams in the top 5? Today, we have the Texas Longhorns. We're going to be doing a 2023 outlook on the Texas Longhorns, how good they are. Are they back? I think that's the question that we always ask with Texas. Are they back? Will they be here? This is probably the highest ranked Texas team we've seen in a while, and also probably with the most expectations. Can Quinn Ewers lead them to the promised land? So if you're a Texas fan, hit that like and subscribe button, and also hit that like and subscribe button, because I'm telling you right now, Oklahoma fans banned me from Reddit. So I am a Texas Longhorn for life right now. So you guys are my guys. So hit that like button. Give us a little algo for me getting banned from Oklahoma's Reddit. So appreciate you guys. Let's dive into Texas on the other side of the intro. All right, let's talk about Texas a little bit. Last year, 8-5, not what they wanted to kind of have the season go with. Quinn Ewers kind of struggled down this, down. Actually, in the middle of the year, he was injured against Alabama, and that game could have been a lot different had he not gotten injured. But definitely wasn't the finish, I guess, they would want in terms of what they were looking for last year on the season. Their offense was not bad when you're looking at that, 25th in the nation for points per game. Points against, they weren't bad either. They were a top 30 team there. They just lost some games they probably shouldn't have. TCU, that 10-17 loss because their offense lost to Washington in the Alamo Bowl. It's just a ton of just miscommunications, bad plays, and all of that. And then Oklahoma State, that was a really bad loss when they lost there. Overall, hey, they got the Oklahoma hump off their back, 49-0 there. They absolutely wiped them on the field. They should have beat Alabama. In my opinion, they were the better team that day. But overall, hey, are they back is the question, because this is, Sark's got a lot of pressure on him this year. He's got to show this going into the, SEC this next year. What is that going to look like in 2024? Let's talk about their offensive line, Christian. What do you like about this team, the Hogs up front?
100% returners as of right now. Now, this is a projection, of course. And the good thing is this offensive line was fine last year. It wasn't great, and everyone had their moments of bad play. I think Cole Hudson was kind of the main liability on this offensive line, but there are reports that he might not be that full-time starter. DJ Campbell is right behind him, and I know that they've liked a couple of the freshmen that have come in that could rotate in. So overall, I think when you look at what this offensive line should be with an improved Quinn Ewers, because I think Quinn Ewers actually got that offensive line into trouble sometimes because he likes to get outside the pocket. It's kind of difficult for them to perform well when he's doing crazy stuff back there. So an improvement from him should improve this offensive line. On the flip side, though, not having Bajan to kind of create in the running game, because he certainly created, separate from the offensive line last year, that could be an interesting dynamic. But overall, returning 100% of your starters is always a good thing. I've talked about consistency and continuity for the last 20 videos, and this is the first one, I think, that has 5 starters coming back.
Yeah, that's a plus, right? When we're talking about, can they kind of be good this year? That's what you're looking for. And Cole Hudson, started as a true freshman, now as a sophomore. He got those reps that he needed to go, and they are deeper too. I don't think injuries are going to hurt them as much. I like Peyton Kirkland. He's a true freshman coming in. Connor Robertson, DJ Campbell, those guys behind these guys are just as, if not better at some point, maybe in the year as they go, they're going to have a depth pieces, which this team desperately needed last year. And they just didn't have that. Now, you talk about their offense. This is a very, very solid offense. So when you look at Texas there, if Quinn Ewers, it comes down to Quinn Ewers. What is Quinn Ewers going to be this year? Can he take that next step? I go back and forth with Quinn. I thought his tape was inconsistent at times and all of this other stuff. But all the reports out of camp is that he's shored it up. He cut off his mullet. He looks like he's ready to go. He's business. He's developing his footwork, which I think we both agree on. He needs to fix and needed to really kind of get those reps in there. But he's got a ton of weapons. And I know we talked about losing Bijan, but they got Jonathan Brooks, who I think is probably the best pass catcher out of that backfield. Jaron Blue is coming in there. CJ Baxter, true freshman. That's very, very solid. In Savion Red, he actually went from a wide receiver to a running back in that room. Keelan Robinson, really good there. Wide receivers are stacked. Xavier Worthy, very good. Isaiah New York coming back off of that injury, he's back. A.D. Mitchell from Georgia, I think he's going to be the biggest riser of this class. DeAndre Moore, true freshman. Jordan Whittington is kind of the glue. He's that dude that's just going to get catches, slot guy, definitely going to be going, just going to be that go-to guy in this offense. And then Jonte Cook, who I love. I love Jonte Cook as a freshman. I think he can be an impact guy this year. And Jatavian Sanders is getting a little bit of buzz in the NFL too. Like, I don't think there's a weak link in this offense. And if the offensive line is coming back and is solid, like, this could be one of the best offenses in the country.
Absolutely, and I think they need to be. I've been on record saying Quinn Ewers was a little bit of footwork away from being one of the better quarterbacks in the nation. Some of the stuff that he can do, he's just got so much talent. And so if he is kind of honed in to having better footwork, and I think we saw some of that in the spring game even, to where we're seeing those improvements. And if he's able to kind of get just a tad more accurate, a tad less jumpy in that pocket, I think we're looking at a potential Heisman candidate, because when you have these weapons coming back, or A.D. Mitchell, that is one hell of an addition. Xavier Worthy is one of my favorite wide receivers. I think he's my wide receiver 2 in this 2024 class. Just a crazy good separator. Ewers missed him on a lot of easy stuff last year, and if Ewers doesn't miss him on all of that, I think even last year's team looks a little bit different.
Yeah.
So, this team is insane. Obviously, we'll talk about they lost Bijan Robinson, which is a big loss, but they're going to fill it with a ton of different guys, I think. And so, yeah, you're right. This offense should be one of the best ones in the country.
Yeah, and shout out Malik Murphy as well. I think Malik is
Oh, yeah.
really good as a backup quarterback. He's one of the best backup quarterbacks in college football. Like, I really think Malik could go and start at some places that you'd probably be surprised at, especially in the SEC too. Like, there's probably 5 or 6 teams instantly would take Malik. So having him there as that insurance if something happens to Ewers, I don't think there's that huge of a drop off. I mean, there is going to be obviously with Ewers if he's playing the Heisman level, but Murphy can win them games, whether if Ewers was to get hurt. And I think that's kind of like the difference for this year. Now, notable losses, yes. Bijan Robinson, big one. We saw it. And if you're watching the little preseason, you see how talented he's going to be. Roschon Johnson, yeah, people really like Roschon. I thought he was a good depth piece. He never really had those breakout years for Texas, which is a solid contributor. Brendan Thompson transferred, and Junior Anglo also transferred, but not big losses there. I think the first 2 are the biggest, and Bijan's going to be the biggest. But like you were mentioning, like, even though you lost Bijan Robinson, I do think this makes your team a little bit, I don't want to say better, but it also changes this offense a little bit to maybe Sark, what he wants to do with that pro spread offense, what he's looking there. And he can kind of get those pieces out, those running back pieces, and kind of manipulate and move them around, which I think Sark is one of the best play callers in college football as well. And so, yeah, you lost Bijan. That's a huge loss. We know that. But you guys have a really solid room back there.
For sure. And I think the difference is, like, Bijan and Roschon certainly had their very set roles. Roschon did a lot of the dirty work. I think the main thing is finding the player in this backfield that does the dirty work, because I think actually if you look at it, it sounds crazy and it's probably not a correct take, but Roschon is the harder one to replace because of the things you just said. Finding a guy that can go in pass protection and be reliable and keep Quinn Ewers on his feet, I think is super important. I think they've got those guys there. And so I think they're in pretty good shape still, despite losing the best running back I've evaluated for the NFL draft in a very long time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a loss. Like, let's not pretend like
Yeah.
it's not. But I do think that they're set up to compete. Now, recruiting class of 2023, they had one of their best recruiting classes in the last, I don't know, probably 15 years. Number 3 overall composite rank. Didn't really hit the transfer too well, but they did attack Texas. 15 recruits from Texas. The big guy's Arch Manning, right? So we're talking about him. He comes in as a 247 number 1 player in the country. I know some other recruiting sites didn't have that, but 5-star kid. But from what we saw, he's going to take some time, and we'll get into that. CJ Baxter's there. I really love Jonte Cook, like I mentioned before. Ryan Niblett's really good. DeAndre Moore. Those wide receivers are very, very solid prospects, and they're going to fit right into the SEC. Like, if you're looking for SEC talent wide receivers, Cook is that guy. Cook is that dude. I'm telling you guys right now. Jaden Chapman as well, interior offensive lineman. Peyton Kirkland is a guy that they really, really like, and they target him. 6'5", 360, massive kid out of Florida. He's a really good, like, he's going to be that tackle for them that kind of protect these quarterbacks. But they did well in this cycle. And I think it was interesting because I really felt like they recruited SEC talent. They went out there and got guys that could play in that conference.
Yeah, I think it was a good move. I have my reservations about Arch, but I also saw a report that Arch was hitting like 22 miles an hour on the GPS the other day, and I was like,
Nice.
"Oh, well, that's not on his film." So, I mean, if he's doing that, I think they'll be in good shape. But I do think, he could be 2 years down the line because of like we talked about Malik Murphy. CJ Baxter is a good player, man. I'm excited to see
Yeah.
him play. I'm excited to see Jonte play. But you're right, Peyton Kirkland is going to be probably one of the key pieces from this recruiting class, but you're absolutely correct. This is an SEC level recruiting class, and they needed something like this as they get to the SEC. This was a necessity, and they hit it out of the park.
I got a comp. I do terrible comps, but I like throwing him out there. I think CJ Baxter reminds me of Najee Harris a lot when he was in college, like as a
Yep.
recruit. CJ to me is Najee. Like when I see him, and I don't know what they're gonna look like. I think the speed, everything is there. It's like, what does that speed look like? CJ's Najee though. Like I think he could be a very big impact player at the collegiate level, and that's where I see from him. As far as key transfers, there's really only one, AD Mitchell. Like that's the guy. Like, and you're looking at here, 6'4", 196. 2021 as a freshman, 426 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's a gamer. He's been banged up though. So when you're looking at what he did, but last year he didn't really play too many games till the end of the year. And then against Ohio State, he had that big touchdown. Against TCU, had a touchdown. I like AD Mitchell. I think he's solid. I think he can rise up draft boards. But if he can, and he's a good kid. Like everything you hear about him, he's like works hard. Teammates love him. Coaches love him. And he left Georgia, and they were still very that can be weird in the transfer portal. Everything you heard out of Georgia, and for fans are like, thank you, Mitchell. We appreciate everything you did. So we're hoping for a big year for him. But if he can be that guy with Worthy, we're talking about a legitimate offense.
Yeah, you mentioned the getting banged up a bit. I think what this does though is it gives insurance for if Xavier Worthy gets
Yeah.
banged up as well. Last year, I don't feel like they had that as much. Jordan Whittington is a good player, and Isaiah Neyor being off the field all of last year was impactful. Getting AD Mitchell and Isaiah back this year will be just huge for this offense, and I think when we're talking about, outlook, AD could be a day 2 pick in the NFL draft. That's how good he is.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping for a big year from him. I think it's kind of inevitable after, looking through that offensive lineup there.
Yeah, if Cedric Tillman can get the capital, I think Mitchell could get the capital. And I also think these wide receiver room here, Jordan Whittington, Adonai Mitchell, and Xavier Ward, the presumed starters, I would stack those guys up against a lot of wide receiver rooms in the country. Like they all complement each other well. Xavier Ward, the kind of that twitchy X guy, gonna just make guys, create separation, can be that deep threat. Mitchell, the bigger guy, Whittington's just a slot, or even like just a possession guy. Like they fit each other well. If they stay healthy, we're talking about a legitimate area. And for Quinn Ewers, that's what it comes back to. Heisman candidate, can he go kind of be that guy that he was in high school? He had a weird trajectory, but losing that year when he went to Ohio State, kind of banged up last year. Like I think the jury's still out on him. We can't just call him a bust or whatever. I think Baxter's going to be an impact player before it's said and done in the season. Xavier Worthy, AD Mitchell, those are my guys, and I think that these are the guys who are going to lead Texas, whether they're going to go to the playoff or a Big 12 championship, or they're going to be out on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think, I would even throw Jonathan Brooks in here. I know
Yeah.
they like him a lot, and I do think that he's going to be on the field a lot more than people want early in his career. I know there are a lot of Jaden Blue stands out there, but I just think this backfield is really quite good.
Yeah.
But you're right. It comes down to Quinn. Everything that Quinn does this year is going to determine Texas's outlook on both sides of the ball. He is the key impact player. So I'm expecting big things. The lack of a mullet should be good for him, I think.
100%. Now let's flip over to defense. So I will say this: the defense was not bad last year. There was times where they gave up some big plays, but overall, this defense held them in games where their offense struggled. And the defensive line was really a standout last year. They led the nation in quarterback pressures in 2022, and they do return a lot of guys on that offensive line. We'll see Sweat. We'll talk about Murphy, even Sorrell, those guys. So that is probably where their strength is. But this defense wasn't bad, and they picked up some good transfers.
They did. Byron Murphy is the highlight of that defensive line, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think he's the best player. He was getting some decent draft buzz last year. There are a lot of Byron Murphys in the world, so sometimes it's easy to confuse them. But this might be my favorite one in the group. But yeah, Baron Sorrell as well. Just I think 7 sacks last year. A lot of good production returning there. And then Ryan Watts is a player I really like. I think that he's going to be able to kind of hold down that secondary. Jaron Thompson was really good last year as well. This defense took some steps forward last year, and I actually think that there were times that the defense outperformed the offense. So returning over half your guys, you're in good shape, and I think they're just going to take those steps forward and maybe not be as efficient as the offense, but I think if the offense takes a step forward, it's going to ease the load on the defense as well.
Yeah, 100%. The guys that they lost, I was going to throw DeMar on Overshawn in there because he's on my Cowboys. But I think everything other reports out of the Cowboy camp, they like him, speed, fast, he covers ground quickly. He was good last year. Keandre Coburn, Morrow, Prince Dorba, those guys are really good. I mean, they definitely shored up that defensive line. But I do think they have enough pieces back to kind of shore up those misses.
Yeah, Ajoma was a pretty big loss. I think Coburn is
Yeah.
too. But like we've talked about, they have depth still. They're Texas. They have depth.
Yeah.
And I think that they can easily kind of slot guys in to kind of, hinder how impactful those losses are.
Yeah, and credit to Sark, because I don't think Sark gets enough credit for on the defensive side for recruiting. We've seen before Texas definitely they go down after that first front guys get injured or whatever the case may be. They haven't ever built up that depth, I don't think, when they've gone through this kind of lull period. Sark's done that. I mean, you can see this with this recruiting class here. I mean, he did go out, and I would argue that their defensive recruiting class in 2023 is what actually pushed them up in the rankings. Like, yes, Arch and those guys. Anthony Hill's a dude. 6'2", 225, number one position linebacker at his position. He's good. Like he's gonna get out there from Denton, Texas. He's all American. He's gonna roll out there really, really quickly. Jelani McDonald in the safety position. Like he's an athlete, 6'2", 197. Also very, very good. Number 2 athlete in the country. But yeah, if you go through these guys, you can just tell they really targeted their secondary linebacking core because they lost that. They got some edge guys. Colton Vasek is another one. 6'5", 225's got some wiggle, and you can tell he can get up the field quick. He's probably going to redshirt if I had to guess, or I don't think he's going to get out there right away. But these guys are good, and they really did a great job of kind of diving in. And even the 3-star guys, like they've really filled good pieces for them.
For sure. Anthony Hill is the highlight.
Yeah.
There are a lot of rumors that he might start even week 1 because of how good he's been since he got there. So that's always a good sign, right? When your top recruit is out there early. But yeah, this is a great class. Like I said, I think they went out and it was a necessity to recruit like this with where they're headed next year. And I think that they did a fantastic job in being intentional about that and going out and not letting, some of those other teams dictate what fell to them. They went out and they got their dudes. And I think that was a smart move on Sark's part.
100%. And Arch helped that. They knew Arch was going there, and these guys like Cook and these other guys. Now, transfer-wise, I thought they did a great job. They got the captain from Arkansas, Jalen Catalan, safety / DB, really good. He played in 21 games the last couple of years. He started 16. He had 159 tackles, 81 solo stops there, 3.5 tackles for loss, 5 interceptions, 14 passes defended. Like, he was really good. You have to like what he did there. Trill Carter as well, Gavin Holmes. So, again, they didn't really go after the guys in the portal. They only had basically 3 guys there. Trill Carter was a very solid Minnesota prospect there. And then Gavin Holmes from Wake Forest, he got rid of it. We're away from that dumpster fire, but he came in as a 4-star, corner as well. So they got 3 legitimate pieces that are going to be some rotational guys in there.
Yeah, for sure. Catalan is the highlight. I think I wrote a mock draft 2 years ago where I was mocking him to go in the first round this last year. I mean, he was that good, and I think that some things derailed some of that play. I don't think he was as good last year. On the other side of things, I think he's going to step in and be, maybe he doesn't even start week 1, but by the end of the season, I think he's going to be one of their most important players on the back end of that secondary because I do think they're solid up their spine, like we've talked about. I do have some questions about, how their secondary is going to fare against those Big 12 offenses. So I think he's one of those guys that can kind of boost the floor of that defense. And he flies all over the field, man. He's so fun to watch.
He's fun. He's fun to watch. It's one of those things. Like if he could be that guy, and right now he's projected probably not to start. But if he's not starting on your defense, then you're pretty good at your defense. Like you
Yep.
probably feel pretty comfortable there. And this is why you have the impact players. And I know we talked about a couple guys that Christian likes that's not on here, but hey, Jalen Ford is a guy that we haven't really mentioned a ton. He had a breakout season last year, 119 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles. Like he was really, really good. You have Jalen Catalan on there. Sweat was also a very solid piece in that defense. And then Barron as well. So Jedi Barron, he led the team with 11.5 tackles from his position at nickel. And he looked good. So like very, very solid guys that can be impact players. But I do think it'd be a mistake not to mention, some of these guys, Anthony Hill, some of them might get out in that field a little earlier than we expect.
Absolutely. And then the one guy I've mentioned
Yeah.
already, but Ryan Watts, I think, with those questions I have on that secondary, my question is he was good in coverage. He got better as the season went on. I'd like to see that next step. He's got all the tools to make that leap. And I think that he'll end up being one of those impact players that we're talking about, when the season ends. But this is a good team. I mean, collectively, there should be 5 to 6 to 7 impact players on this team, and I think they'll be in good shape.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the schedule. So let's talk about this. We got Rice. You don't lose to Rice. That's a whole Texas thing. You lose to Rice first game of the year. You're not going to lose to Rice. Then you got Alabama. Big game at Alabama. A game I think they could win. I'm not going to sit here and say that they can't win that game. If Quinn Ewers is there, I think they can win that, especially early. Alabama's got a quarterback issue out there. What is that going to look like? If Sark doesn't pucker up a little bit like he did a little bit last year, maybe go for it a few times there, Sark. I think that they could definitely go there. Wyoming, Baylor, Kansas, they should take care of business there. Oklahoma's a big game as always. We know that. Rivalry games there. Houston, BYU, Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State, Texas Tech. It's a Big 12 schedule. They're over-unders at 9.5 wins. So what do we think about this schedule?
Over.
Yeah.
Over. I think they're beating Alabama. I think you're right. When you opened up this video and said they should have beat Alabama, they were the better team, that is 100% right. If Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt in that game, we are talking about Texas in a very different light. And we're talking about Alabama in a very different light as well, just coming out of last year. But I do think Alabama's going to get up for this game. I think, having this early Alabama game is giving Texas something to really strive for and be, spot on. I think a lot of these Texas teams have been a little unfocused early in the year, and that's why they've dropped those games earlier in the year. I think having Alabama so early is actually going to be a really good thing for this team down the line because, I'm looking at this schedule. Oklahoma is going to be a tough one, but there's a chance that this is an undefeated team. There's a chance that this is an undefeated conference championship winning team that's going to the college football playoff. If they get past Alabama, I think that that's more likely than not, which is kind of crazy to say. And so I guess I'm saying Texas is back, which I'm scared to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can. I think I would shock me for them not to be a 10-win team. It would shock me. Like it really would.
Yeah.
Because I do think this, to be honest, Texas is in a position now where they should be back. And Sark has a ton of pressure on here. But I do think that if Texas isn't in the playoff, I think it's a failure. I think Texas should be a playoff team this year. I think they should win the Big 12. And I think they're the team to beat. I think that they have all of the talent in the world. And they should, even if they lose Alabama, they should win out after that. Based on the talent that they have, barring injury, I think that they are the best team in the Big 12. But that doesn't necessarily always mean that because Big 12 gets funky. It gets weird. There's a reason why they're leaving. But overall, like you have to like what Texas's long-term outcome is with this team. And I do think they put themselves in position to compete in the SEC next year as well, with Arch and all these pieces too. And Malik's still there. But overall, this team should make the playoff. In my opinion, based on their schedule, if they can just win out after Alabama, no matter what happens, I think that they're in.
Yeah, I'm all in on that. I'm expecting a huge year from Quinn Ewers. We talked about how we go back and forth with Quinn Ewers. I'm more on the fourth. I kind of think that he's going to take that next step. He's going to fix those footwork things. And really, like I said earlier, that dictates this team's success. And so, I think that's a one and done type of situation. But next year with Malik Murphy or Arch Manning, I do think that they're ready to make the playoffs again when it goes to 12 team, even after they get to the SEC. So this program is in as good a shape as I can remember, outside of the Vince Young years and things like that. But This is the most optimistic I've been about this Texas team in a long time.
Yeah. All right. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember, Oklahoma fans hate me, Texas. So hit that like button before you get out of here. We are rooting for you guys this year. A good Texas means a good college football season, in my opinion. We got to get these backs. I would love to see a Texas USC matchup just for old time's sake in the college football playoff. That'd be a lot of fun. So we will talk to you guys next time when we're diving into number 14. Until then, see you guys later.